Calcavecchi was 4 up with 14 through 14 and ended up having the match. What were your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts, of course, were earlier that he's the reason we won, I think, personally. I put Payne Stewart and Raymond Floyd out 1-2 and expected good results, and both of them were getting tromped early. And Calc was, went through the turn, eventually got 5 up. And then, as you say, it was 4 up with 4 to go. But by that point in time, I went from wishing everybody good luck off the first tee and joined them on 8. When the people came, all the teams came through 8. Not a person was commenting that Floyd and Payne Stewart were getting beat, but the fact that if Calc can do it, I can do it, without my prompting. And so, yes, he didn't. He collapsed. I mean, I after I left 8, I drove as fast as I could and arrived right at 17. By the green to see, I wasn't back on the tee, unfortunately, but saw the disaster he had at 17, and then, of course, lost 18 to tie. But we win by the half a point, and he's the reason. And he's the reason because the guys were watching how good he was doing early on in the match.
Tell us about the controversy between Azinger, Beck, and Olafable and Seve on number 10 on the first day.
Well, it wasn't 10. It happened. It came to a head at 10, but it had happened on the front side where they played different balls, which they couldn't do it. And Ballesteros needed to call it on that hole, and didn't. He waited, but we were in the wrong. I mean, we should have been playing one ball, which they should have known. Just made a mistake.
You mentioned Raymond Floyd during the event. What was his effect, his play with Freddie? And also, in his singles match, he came back. He was 4 down with 7 to play and took it to the last hole. Do you think that had a spurring effect?
Yeah, I think Raymond played a crucial part. Obviously, a Hall of Fame player, and I picked him because I handpicked him to go with Freddie Couples. I mean, psychologically, I didn't think at that point in time Couples knew how good he really was. And anybody I put with Raymond's going to look good because Raymond's a talented player. And I just thought it was a great matchup. I could play him in best ball or alternate shot. And he would just let Freddie freewheel it. And it'd be like a silly season event for Freddie and let him go. And I think it was a great pairing.
Right. Did some of the American players suffer from food poisoning that last day?
Food poisoning?
Yeah, I heard that somebody...
Not that I've heard anything about it. The only thing we suffered from was a limo wreck.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to next. What the effect of the pre-event car crash? I mean, because Payne was playing so well that day. That year. What do you think that affected the team?
Well, it affected the captain. I don't know about the team necessarily. I had 2 set pairings going in, actually 3. We've already talked about Floyd and Couples. And I had Chip Becca's pick to go with Azinger. Those are teams that go together. But my strongest team was going to be Pavin and Pate. And being from USC, to pick two UCLA Bruins to go together, it would have been magical because Pate never shot around on the course over 67, playing phenomenal. And I was really excited. I mean, they were along with Freddie and Raymond going to be the 1-2 teams. And Pate gets severely hurt in that car crash. Had about a 13-inch welt across the lower part of his stomach into his kidneys and stuff. And he'd flown through the limo and hit the wooden or the bar area at the other end of it. And while we did try to play him on Saturday because I wanted to give him at least a chance to play, I couldn't see just sitting him out the whole time. Because you kept thinking he was going to get better, but it was extremely painful for him. And while he did lose, they came close. I think they got beat 2-1 or something. It was very, very difficult for me because I hadn't put Pavin with anybody else in practice because I didn't expect to have to do that. One thing I did prior to my playing, my guys knew exactly who they were going to play with. They knew there was going to be no surprises. And once Pate got hurt and couldn't play, then I had to jockey Pavin around, which unfortunately I didn't have much practice or let him get settled, which I know cost us points. And when I sat there on Saturday night, even at 14-4, at half pointed, I think it was 8-8 at that point in time. it's the first time it ever dawned on me we could possibly lose because it didn't even enter my mind that it was going to be close.
All right, give me some of your impressions on these team members, Paul, and their impact here. Paul Azinger.
Azinger was a real leader. There were certain people, we talked about strategy all the time. Lanny Watkins, Azinger, and Payne Stewart, the four of us would constantly talk. In the preceding year prior to it, there didn't a week go by that we weren't talking about who to put with who and what we thought about different situations and stuff. But Azinger is a true leader and obviously a Ryder Cup captain next year.
Chip Beck.
Chip's never seen a bad day. Anybody doesn't like. It's just a go-getter, positive attitude, the whole thing. He and Zinger made a good partnership.
Mark Calcavecchia.
Calc was really good. Calc wrote me a letter prior to a 3-page letter, actually, in informing me that he was excited about playing best ball but had no interest in playing alternate shot. And looking back in the records, I thought some of the previous captains hadn't used his ability, putting him with different people that I didn't think fit his style. And I leaned on him heavily. Calc's a birdie machine. And putting him with the right partners, which is the captain's job to do, I was assured that I was going to get a lot of points out of him.
We already spoke about Fred Coupler. Fred Coupler, just give us some.
Well, just a lot of fun. I mean, he on the golf course was just a raw talent. I can remember the trap shot he held, I believe, out on 15 or 16, which is shown in the highlight films. But nothing Freddie does surprises you. He makes it look. He's one of the ones, as badly as I swing at things, it makes me upset to watch the grace and fluidness that he has to his game, and he just lets it go. And that's why I wanted to put him with Raymond, because I put him with the toughest competitor I could think of, and it was gonna change Freddie's outlook to a certain extent, I felt.
Hale Irwin.
Hale, of course, is my anchor man the last day. I figure anybody that's won 3 U.S. Opens, which I have a hard time conceiving of somebody winning one. I think it's the hardest major we play on our profession. Set it up the toughest. Never really fit me because I gambled a lot. I looked at Kiowa as the ultimate golf course that you had to manage your game. And here's Hale Irwin, 3-time U.S. Open champion. Totally talented, and he drew the toughest assignment of going last.
Wayne Libby.
Wayne was probably not playing as well as anybody on our team at that given week, unfortunately. He'd played really good, had been player of the year before, and had amassed most of his qualifying points the year before. But he and Judy were an integral part of the team. He came very close. He drew a tough assignment in the singles on Sunday and came very close to winning. But his game was, for his expectations, was probably off a little bit.
Mark O'Meara.
Mark played well. Mark was a good player. He, at one point, I wanted him to play one of the days for me, and he declined to play on the, no mention was made of it or anything, but I was shorthanded without Pate playing, but he felt that he couldn't go out in the afternoon, so I didn't ask him twice. Played adequately, didn't star necessarily for the team, but that just was the situation that he was put in.
Corey Pavin.
Did everything I could ask. Great prankster, tried to get me in practice rounds, putting ice water on my seat on the 14th tee during our final practice round, only to have my wife Kathy sit in it instead of me, which I gave him fits about. But great little guy. Probably the footnote for Pavin would be after we've won and we're going to the dinner, and we have an opportunity to. There's 2 buses there, one for the Europeans, one for us, and we're 2 people shy of filling just one bus. And Woosman, last year's captain for the Europeans, says to me, Stocky, he says, we ought to go together. We don't need 2 buses. With this, he picks up Pavin and carries him on the bus. So I'd say both of them, small stature, but for Pavin, really the heart of the team. And I am really resentful of the fact that he and Pate didn't get to show their true colors.
Payne Stewart.
just phenomenal part of the team. Was surprised he didn't win his singles match. Again, you think of the highlights. I remember he holded it off the seventh green, the par 5. He's over in a bush and made this abbreviated swing. Phenomenal shot. Just, you know, major loss in the post to the United States that he was not a Ryder Cup captain, because, like I said, he's one of the 4 that we just continually talk back and forth. And while it wasn't his greatest week, he was a true ambassador, and he'll truly be missed.
Lanny Watkins.
Just Bulldog did great. Won his singles match on Sunday. Preceded Irwin toward the end of it. He was one of the ones I was going to put out first, and that's one of the changes I made. I intended to put him out first because he likes to play fast. You know, I figured he'd run the legs off anybody, but he was tired. You know, I'd leaned on him heavily during the first 2 days, and he came to me and said I'd like to go later in the rotation. So since I didn't have him off first, he was switched to go right in front of Hale, and did win his match. I believe it was on 16, and then obviously it was all watching Hale and Bernard coming in.
Any second guessing on your pairings or your decisions that week?
Well, to a certain extent, yes, because of the Pate situation. If it had not have happened, I could have mailed it in. I mean, I knew exactly who I was going to play and how I was going to play them. I mean, I had the 3 teams I'm talking about: Pate, and Pavin, and Paul and Chip playing together, and then in Couples and Floyd. Now, who do I have as backups? I mean, I'm talking about one team, and I got to figure out a place to put Payne Stewart, Calcavecchia, Irwin, Watkins, you know, Mira, right on down the line, Levy, all these different names that I had that were in reserve for one last team, because I was planning to play a lot of these teams twice. And it gave me a lot of flexibility. I would have had rested players going into the singles. But again, I had I had this all thought out. I had no second guessing. And one thing, I mean, like I said, I mean, I knew when my team got here on Monday, we started playing practice rounds. We'd play 9 holes best ball, 9 holes all in a shot, because 3 of those teams were going to be able to go both ways. And they were playing big money against each other, and they were playing hot and heavy. There was no Wednesday and Thursday, like, well, I wonder who we're going to play with and what's going on. They knew. They'd known it. A lot of it had known it during the year, because the PGA Tour was nice enough to let me play some of the Tuesday shootouts on tour Ryder Cup formats, and then let me pick who I wanted to play. So during the year, I was constantly getting to watch them perform. And I knew who mentally, in my mind, who to put together.
What do you think the 91 event meant to the whole stature of the Ryder Cup?
I think we confused a lot of people. My goal, I stopped playing. I gave all of 91, and part of 90 to the fact of going around the country speaking on behalf of the PGA of America and explaining to people what the Ryder Cup was about. A lot of things have transpired since then. Pay for play has come up. Donating charity has come big money. At my point in time, I wanted the PGA to at least make a poster when I went around the country speaking about it. I said, let's put the Ryder Cup in the sea oats down here. Take a picture of it. Now, it doesn't need to commercialize me or the team or anything like that. I couldn't even get a poster made, which to me was very difficult. But they did not want to commercialize the Ryder Cup, which in that point in time was fine. My goal was I wanted to make the sporting event that it should be. And some of the captains immediately following me, you know, they said, well, we want to get it back to have it being civil like it was before and all that. And I think American pride's a great thing. And I think the highlight for me that week was on Tuesday night, the only night we didn't have some function. We set up a low country cookout at Mingo Point here. And I didn't invite a single official from either party, but I invited any family members of the team members of both teams. And we showed up there. We were wearing, you know, shorts and flip-flops and had a low country cookout and had a great time. And to me, that's what that Ryder Cup was about. The PGA made a mistake when they called it the War by the Shore. To me, I had business that I wanted to attend to. It's been 6 years since the Ryder Cup had been here. And I just wanted it to have the feel that we cared. And it was interesting to me behind the first tee every day. They had 2 gentlemen, obviously for Europe. One wore the Spanish flag and one wore the English flag. and they would introduce the Americans, and they would clap like crazy. And then they'd introduce the Europeans, and they'd go nuts. But I thought that was really what it was all about. And I know in the big pavilion there that the European players went into and stuff at times, I mean, they'd have cheers going back and forth in the pavilion. Yes, it was probably louder than a lot of other previous Ryder Cups. And some of the things that happened since then, Boston, some of the stuff where, probably went over the edge. But I think showing the enthusiasm, I think, was good for us. And it certainly showed that we cared, because my team did care and America did care, and I think the Ryder Cup is better for it. I think it's become, for the PGA of America, a really huge thing. And it's going to be interesting next year in Valhalla, the job that Azinger does, to have the results that we had at Kiel, which I fully expect that he'll do.
He dives in the back 3 times to make renovations of the course. How does it compare to 91 to now?
It looks totally different. 91 was overgrown. I was here 8 months before. I didn't think they were going to have anything grown. Forget overgrown, But it's more wide open now than it was. Certainly the fairways on the front side are extremely wide, which I did not remember. I feel that the backside is in some respects narrower. They've added a new tee at 13. At least, thank God, they haven't gone to the back tee that Pete Dye built back on a hump. You can see it back there that is now overgrown and stuff, but thank God, that would have been 230 going into that par 3, and you don't really want to do that. Pete was disappointed they didn't use that. And then the loss of sand dunes with the storms you've had down here on 18 just looks totally different. Obviously, the green's been moved and everything else, but I think it's a spectacular course. Right now, the hardest obstacle, obviously, is getting the ball to stay on the green. And now that they've changed the things so they say they don't have bunkers, which they do, I kind of laughed playing my practice round yesterday because you can't get out of them because there's no sand in them. And they call them waste areas, but in reality, when we played it, they had sand in there, and you could literally play shots out of it. This year, at the senior PGA here, we're going to have to. You have to avoid them at all costs. You can get out of the the run out areas, but the sand traps, so-called wild areas, are going to be impossible.
Golf Digest named it America's toughest course. Do you agree? And how do you attack a course like that, especially if the wind's up?
Well, I haven't played it when the wind isn't up, so I agree with that assessment. The reason that I think it's so difficult is the course runs in one direction, and at only number 5 is the only hole that you're sideways into it, or had dead into you or dead behind you. Yesterday it came off the ocean. I guess Wednesday and Thursday is supposed to change and come inland, from inland to the ocean, which is the quote normal breeze, which would, the hole that everybody remembers, 17, we played the Ryder Cup, was dead into the wind. Yesterday was dead downwind. So it's going to come from some direction, and it's going to affect it. And there's, the front side's got trees, backside doesn't have a single one that I can recall. And you're just, the elements are at you're at the mercy of the elements, and you're facing, I think, a golf course that, very difficult to chip to for the most part. And now you got the bunkers you don't dare go in. So it's a number one. If they have a harder one, I haven't played it.
All right. Finally, in general, give us your impressions of the resort. In general, how it's changed since 91.
Well, the condominiums the team stayed at are no longer here. Sanctuary Hotel has been added. More golf courses have been added. And certainly when we first played here, there wasn't a single house out here on the golf course. And now, as you drive in, you see these mansions that are overlooking the sound in the golf course and stuff. You see a lot of build-up. New clubhouse, obviously, great facilities, great practice area, which was not apparent before. At the time when Kathy and I came here, if we lived anywhere other than California, somewhere on the East Coast, I would have had a home here in a minute. It's a destination that I love. Go out and walk the beach, and I don't necessarily like to play golf in my off time. I like the outdoors. This would be a perfect place to do anything else but golf. But if you have to play golf, you got some truly great golf courses, Turtle and Osprey, and then this golf course, the Kiowa course, is just second to none. And I think they've done it right. I love the feeling. I love driving through the trees, and just it's spectacular.